Okay, y'all, so we're gonna do another video. So this video, we're gonna do like is this witch? Yeah, I got a witch in my eye. It's early in the morning, so I apologize if I got any witch in my eye, but we're gonna do a video on the Gen Z stare, which isn't new. This has been a trend going on for like months on end. And essentially what the Gen Z stare is it's a phenomenon that is described as the fact that whenever a Gen Zer interacts with somebody else in their environment, they give a very minimal response and a very minimal reaction to the other party that interacts with them. Of course, I'm a Gen Zer. Do I have a Gen Z stare? In certain situations, yes. In certain situations, no. Um, so my opinion on the Gen Z stare is that, with other generations speaking on it, speaking on how the Gen Z stare is like essentially like they're poking fun at the fact that the Gen Z stare is a negative thing, right? My opinion on it is simply the fact that the Gen Z stare is what it is. I think that other generations just have to suck it up and just accept the way it is. Now, why am I so harsh about that? Because the Gen Z stare is the most reasonable and logical reaction, attitude, and emotion to the current environment, right? Okay, so what is emoting? Like when it comes to emoting and expressions of that kind, what do they posit? They posit that I have some form of real connection to you. Okay, or at least there's a form of connection that I have to you that posits um, some, you know, positive, I can get something positive out of interacting with you. And I apologize for my neighbor's dog. That's what most emoting and interaction is all about, right? So, what the Gen Z stare is essentially saying unconsciously to people that encounter it is this Gen Zer already expects that whatever is going to come about with, any interaction with someone else, nothing's really going to, come out of it that's of benefit to the Gen Zer. Now, is this true? Absolutely. This is absolutely true. Okay, when it comes down to work, where do most Gen Zers work? Most Gen Zers currently are working at, entry level jobs, right? They're working at entry level jobs. Like I already said on the channel, they're trying to get their hustles together. They might still be in college. They might be climbing up the ranks right now. But when it comes down to the current economic climate, they probably got, some form of, entry level job or some form of gig on the back end that's a financial staple for their plans in the future. That's what most Gen Zers are doing. Now, when it comes down to how you could posit that support, that financial support, whether it, be like that entry level job or whatever, if they're working at McDonald's or, me, I work at Goodwill or whatever that thing is, that's all it is. It doesn't really have any other signification other than that. And you guys already know my opinions on the job market and on, job culture and work with my other video. So there's even problems with like those positions and, that situation that Gen Zers are in. So as a Gen Zer, whenever you encounter them, like in these, environments like McDonald's or whatever, and they give you that stare, what us as Gen Zers, all we see whenever a person approaches is, okay, they need this, I give them this, the interaction is over. That's it. Okay, they're giving me capital. Let me give them the service that this capital is for, and then the interaction is over. Right? Now, that's all the interaction is, with the emoting and the customer service and all that other sorts of stuff. I mean, I guess that's cool, but when it comes down to the functioning of what that interaction is within like the work environment, or the sort of interaction when it comes to the service, no emotion is required. You feel me? Okay, you want a burger and some fries. Okay, I give you the burger and the fries. The people that are in the back fixing it, they fix it to the point to where it's satisfactory to your taste buds. Okay, no other form of emoting is needed, bro. What else do I need to be doing? I don't need to be, I don't need to be smiling all the time, right? That takes way too much that takes way too much energy. That takes way too much energy that could be used to giving you the service that you actually want, which is the food. All that other sorts of stuff, we don't really need to be doing all that other sorts of stuff, right? So the Gen Z stare is, that's one method of it. And I guess, it depends on the Gen Zer. So one Gen Zer might give you the Gen Z stare to more so hone in their energy. They don't want to waste their energy. They already got to do this amount of hours around people that they don't really care that much about. You know what I'm saying? They just don't want to crash out. So you got those Gen Zers. Then you got Gen Zers, like I guess I would be in this camp, that understand that, the unnecessary emoting and facial expressions that are required in a lot of services, like I said, they're unnecessary. So you don't really need them. If I can give you an adequate service, that's all that really should matter. Like all that emoting stuff, is not really required. And thirdly, with the emoting that is required, not only is it unnecessary, but like the function of the emoting is in a context that isn't related to it, right? I mean, you smile and you have positive regard most of the times for people that you hope to encounter again, or that you've had a meaningful dialogue with, right? You see somebody, you might have had a bad day, right? You had a bad day, and you're walking in the park sad with your head down. Somebody says, hey, cheer up, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's when you would do like yeah, thank you. You know what I'm saying? That's when you would do an emote. Or, you're talking with somebody, you're smiling and you're chopping it up with them. Like the emotions and the, expressions that are required in, a lot of scenarios that other generations see Gen Zers in, they're just out of whack. They don't really make a whole lot of sense, right? So for me, the whole Gen Z stare thing, I think it's just one of those things that, every generation does it, at some point or another, trying to poke fun at other generations. And I think this is just one of those scenarios, because when you look around at like when you look at how the world stage is now, and how a lot of stuff is being shown as fake, and how a lot of systems are collapsing, and even like social systems and like social ways of being are collapsing, I don't understand how somebody that's supposed to be building up somebody, or not somebody, but building up, the system currently, us as Gen Zers. I don't understand how, us having the Gen Z stare is illogical, you know, because, the other expression that we could be having, of course, would be, like I said, crashing out, and we don't want that. So, the best thing is the Gen Z stare. I don't understand why we're describing a phenomena that is negative when in actuality, when it comes down to maintaining the services that we currently have, it's actually a good thing, because all of the alternatives are even worse. With the alternatives, you have a worker that's maintaining a fake facade, and is draining their psychic and their emotional energy, which is, you know, impairing other functions towards their work, functions that are even more important, which is, the quality of the service in itself. You have it to where, like I said, crashing out. You have all these other alternatives that are worse than a freaking person that's not smiling at you 24/7. Like, come on now. So, anyways, I'm just giving my 2 cents on the Gen Z stare. I'm also giving my 2 cents because, um, yeah, I wanted to put out a lazy video because my brain is still busy with college. This is going to be a very busy semester, but, it's been your boy signing out. Peace.